Hey everyone. A while back, I found like a carpenter's block tutorial by the Minecrafters, and it showed like a really cool spaceship. And then I found a video by a YouTube user, That Paradox, and that showed like a ship that he had controlled using RedstoneInMotion and ComputerCraft. And I thought it'd be really cool to not only combine all those things, but to make the control, rather than you have to sort of go into the screen of the turtle and press buttons with your keyboard, is you could just actually have it on a monitor and set it to do what you want to do. Excuse me. Unfortunately, one of those issues, one of the issues with that is that whenever the computer is moved along with the entire ship, if it's on, it will shut down, and the only way to have that display show up again is to have it on a startup, so that when the ship has moved, the computer restarts and then this is displayed again. So that's what I've got here. So if I click this, you'll see that I start moving forwards. It doesn't look like it restarts, but it actually does. Now there's a real issue with that, is that when the computer, or even a turtle now, when that closes due to the ship moving, it opens up a new thread on your computer, and what happens is that the old one isn't closed down. So you end up with just sort of your computer resources or your CPU resources are just sort of gradually eaten up. And I'm going to show you that in action in a minute, and show you a way to get around it. Also want to say that if you like trying to get into this ComputerCraft, and you're looking for some decent tutorials, there's the guy that I found his tutorials. He's got loads of subscribers. Funshine X. If you haven't found that yet, definitely go and check him out. They're brilliant tutorials, and he also he's a really nice guy. When I was trying to figure out if this was still an issue, I sent him a message, and honestly, you don't really expect to get a message when someone's got tons of subscribers. Just must have so many messages to go through. But he quickly replied and explained the issue, and it hadn't been fixed. And yeah, he was a really pleasant guy, and definitely go and check out his videos. Brilliant explanations. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put down this timer, and what we're going to do is I'm going to show my system resources while this is going on. I'm going to show my system resources while this is going on, and then you'll be able to see how bad it gets, and then I'll go along to a solution that's been found. Maybe not the most elegant, but hopefully it'll get you guys being able to make some cool ships out there. Okay, so here we are. Sort of like, this was all an attempt to maybe lower the amount of times that my computer would be turning on and off, and it quickly became apparent that using a lot of these sort of special items that you get with the Project Red integration, it would take up too much space to really sort of make it effective. But they are, sort of useful here for showing how the threads will sort of go out of control. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put this timer here, and let's right, okay. So let's make sure that's 2 seconds. Right, okay. So what I'm going to do is let this go. Now, as you can see over in the right hand side of the screen is my threads are slowly going up, and I do apologise, I've got a cat trying to sabotage this video. Bug off. So when these get up too high, obviously it's going to really cause problems for your computer. And as you see, we started on 10:35 on the mini map there, so we've gone less than 15 spots, and we're sort of significantly going up in the threads. Now if I leave this for a little while, you'll be able to see how quickly it gets to a bad situation. So here we are at 9:42, so we've moved less than 100 spaces. We've just gone up in 100 spaces, and as you can see, if you go and look at the system numbers over there, the threads alone are now over 1,000, and we started on about 750. And we've moved now, let's have a look, we're just coming up to 100 blocks that we've moved. You know, this for the amount of time it's taken to move and the system processes it's taken up, there's really no point doing it. I mean, it'd be really cool to have a base you could move around, but you know, the control of it might be too hard. And the other issue is when you're doing something like this, doing it purely an analog sort of control, where you know, if you have a switch you turn on and off, is as the lag gets worse, and if you don't have those movements on super slow, is it comes to a point where you literally can't click it. You'll be trying to click it, but it just takes so long to go through, it doesn't work. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to set us going back in the other direction by 100, and we'll see how bad it gets. So here we are approaching back to the position we started with. So we've gone 100 in one direction, and then we're coming back. And if you look down the threads on the right, well, you can see the numbers have gone through the roof here. You know, we were to travel 100 blocks in one direction and 100 block back, we're almost at 600 new threads created just to do that. And as you can see, it's even giving me trouble breaking the block just to stop me moving. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a way to sort of counteract this, and that's why I'm going to end this video, because you might see this and go, oh, I can make that myself, and then I'll do another video which is putting it all together, the programming, all that, and making a ship. So I'll just go to that sort of solution. Okay, so what we got here is a setup that I know it looks really clunky at the moment. This is more just so you'd be able to see how everything is being used. This setup would allow you to have almost as sort of simple control over the ship as you know, just that interface that's always going, but this is not causing any extra lag. So a lot of the credit to this sort of doing this programmable RedNet controller goes to Dave Ferrum. He did like this set of tutorials that were absolutely brilliant on this thing, and just sort of helped outline how some of the stuff worked. And you can also check out I think it's a Technic wiki, has information on what each of the logic gates on this do. So essentially what we've got here is we've got a computer with a monitor, and when it starts up it displays this. So at the moment this is just saying, okay, move 10 ahead, move 20 ahead. That sends out a coloured signal to this box here, and all this does is just delay it. I mean, you can have this all so much more compact, but it's just so you can see what's going on. So that relays a signal from that into here. Now what this has is a counter, or sorry, a timer going about once every 0.75 of a second, and inside it's got two counters. So if you send a signal for 10 into here, it sets that counter counting up to 10. Every time that counter ticks up one, it sends information to here. Now you need to have this delay on this one, and I will show this all in a minute. But what this one basically does is delay it, so that of all the, say, 30 ticks of 1.5 seconds combined, this cuts it down to almost the very end of that. It just does a single tick very quickly. So say the interval of this timer in here is 15 ticks on, 15 ticks off, which is a total of 30. This delays the signal by 29 ticks, so you only get one tick at the end, which goes into your machine there. Otherwise it just sort of messes around, and this doesn't count up properly, because obviously it's relying on the timer to go on then off. And what this one also does is, which are these two lights, is when the variable that for this counter is at the maximum distance. So for example, I've got the white would represent the counter for moving 20 blocks ahead, and the orange represents the counter for moving 10 blocks ahead. When that goes off and when you're moving and it comes back on, it triggers a single pulse from this one, and all this does is delays the sending of the signal by, I think it's 2.5 seconds, and then it sends out a 1-second pulse. And what this here is an autonomous activator, so that gets a pulse of electricity, so redstone signal, and I've set it so that it only comes on when you've got a redstone signal, and because that comes on, it switches the computer back on, and whenever you press one of these buttons, the computer goes off. So I shall show you that really quickly. We'll go 10 spots ahead. So there's the computer off. As you see, it started ticking up because you can see that is no longer equal to 10. We're moving forwards. I don't know, I have to put some sort of landmark here. We are moving forwards 10 blocks. Because it is on a timer, sometimes you'll go 10, sometimes you'll go 11, just because sometimes you'll send the signal as the timer's on. You probably could get rid of that. I'm not fantastic at this stuff, but okay. So we moved 10 ahead, and now that's come back on. Now what I'm going to do is bring up my task manager, just so you can see that this really isn't causing any thread issues. Okay, so here we are. I've got my task manager up. There is, as you see, I'm currently running at 807 threads. That's because I was messing around back there and I haven't restarted Minecraft since. But what we should see is if I put this on to go 20 ahead, is that those threads are no longer shooting up like they were. As you can see, still staying at the 800 mark. By this point before, we had easily gone up. And moving all over the place. So you see, I mean, there's been a tiny amount of thread gain there, but it's certainly not drastic. And what I'm going to do now is I am going to set it on. I'm going to basically make it travel another 100 blocks. So before, when we travelled 100 blocks, we went from about 750 up to, what was it? I think it was 1,000. So I'll make this travel 100 blocks, and you'll see how it just is not the same issue. It sort of solves the issue. So here we are. We're approaching the last stretch of that 100 block move. And if you look at the threads on the right hand side of the screen, as you see, they've actually gone down. So I mean, this is not the issue that we were having before. I mean, with this way, you can't really have, say, a computer screen where you set it on automatic control and you can turn it off with the computer screen. But you could set this, say, for example, to automatically go forwards, and then have a plate or a switch or something you press, and the computer screen comes back on once you press that switch. But for moving certain blocks at a time, you can use a computer screen for it, which I think will look kind of cool. So okay, so if you've sort of got the gist of how this works, this might be the time you want to stop watching the video. What I'm going to do here is I'm just going to go through what all of these circuits here do. So I do apologise if the video just glitched a bit. As I was doing this, I knocked out my headphone connection, and yeah, so obviously I was talking after that and nothing happened. So what I'm going to do here is go through what the different circuits do. So all this one here is that computer sends out, when you press 10, it sends out this purple signal. When you press 20, it sends out this orange signal. And all it does is, this is a delay logic circuit, and it just delays it by 1 second. And if we look at these ones here, the first one we have is a wave square brackets timer, and this is set to 15 ticks, and it outputs that signal on variable 0. Now the thing is with variables in this is, if you've got something like that which would be imitating a redstone output, as you have a look at variable 0 there, you can see it's going on and off between 0 and 15. It's not there and it's 15. And that would be sort of imitating a no signal, a full redstone signal. Okay, so now if we look at the second one here, we've got a counter. Now the way the counter works is you have something that signals to increase it by 1, something to signal to decrease it by 1. This is the sort of preset reset that you would do. That's a weird one. But basically, if you set this, if I were to set this to 20, every time it hits 20, it would just roll back over. So if you set it to 21, you want it sitting on 21 without resetting itself. And then the actual reset signal comes in from that orange. And this outputs its number on variable 1. Now variable 1 is just checked to be less than 20, because obviously it's not resetting itself. And if it is less than 20, it puts out a signal on variable 2. And variable 2 is put into an AND circuit with variable 0, which is a timer. So when this is less than 20 and the timer is in an on signal, we get variable 3 output. And what variable 3 and variable 6 do, which is the setting for the 10 movement, is they just output a signal when they're active. When either of them is active, it's an OR gate, sets out a signal to the right in white. Now this is a total of 30 ticks for each cycle, 15 ticks on, 15 ticks off on the timer. All this does is it takes the input, so that's the input from the up of white, and it delays it, because we're on a delay here, at a constant rate of 29 ticks, and it just outputs it in the back. So all that means is that this takes 30 ticks to go through. On that last tick, this sends your forwards 1, or sends a signal to that carriage, and because you're putting it in the back, it sends it in that direction. Now the other logic gates on this one is, this is a similar one, except this is the purple. As you see, the constant here is 11, and it uses variable 6 to increase it, and it's reset by the purple. So this is the 10 movement forwards. So that outputs its value on 4. 4 is checked to be less than 10. If it's true, it goes out on 5. 5 and 0 are checked, so when it's less than 10 and the timer is on, output variable 6. Variable 6 is what increases the counter, and then variable 3 or 6 send a signal to move forwards. Now the last two that we have is, this is for when to reset the computer and turn it back on. So when variable 4 equals 10, oops, no, sorry, wrong one. Here we go. When variable 4 equals 10, output, it doesn't really, because you're using a different set of redstone Y here, I've just used a different set of colours. So when variable 4 equals 10, output a signal to the left, that is orange, that's that light. When variable 1 is equal to 20, output a signal to the left on the white, which is that one. And that is all we got there. And then this final one here, when the input from the left is orange, is on, delay that signal by 50 and output on variable 1. Variable 1 becomes a one-shot pulse on variable 0 becomes a one-shot pulse on variable 1. Variable 1, that one-shot pulse, is lengthened to 20 seconds and output at the back. And then the same thing when the input to the left is white, delay that signal by 50, output it on variable 2. Variable 2 is turned into a one-shot pulse on variable 3, and variable 3 is pulse lengthened to 20 ticks. Now the reason this works is because this relies on these inputs being equal to the maximum. The minute we turn this on, well, because it's using that counter number, it's no longer at that equals 10 or equals 20. And as you can see here, so we're moving forwards 10 here. So we've gone forwards 10, it's hit that, and that just pulsed on and turned the computer back on. Now the reason this is delayed by that 50 ticks is that when this equals 10, this will still be having a pulse going through. So you need to make the delay in there, the delay of that one-shot pulse to turn the computer back on, longer than whatever the timer is here. So the timer in here is 30, it's delayed by almost 30, so I've set that to 50, so 15 plus 30, 45, I just set it to 50 afterwards. And that's really all of that, and the next video I'm going to do is put this into like a complete control system, a little bit more compact, so you could see how you could make it into a ship. Anyway, I hope that was useful, I hope it was interesting, and I hope it inspires you to do something fun like this, and I hope you have fun.